Welcome to part 24 in this series of videos on how to create a purchase order system using Blazor and C#. In this video, we'll add a facility to send orders to suppliers by email, or rather more specifically, we will email a link to a page that will display the order. We'll be using a NuGet package called MailKit and creating a separate page to test that we have MailKit set up correctly, which we will subsequently delete. But why MailKit? My initial investigations led me in the direction of SendGrid. For example, the free ebook published by Syncfusion called Blazor Succinctly, which incidentally I would recommend, uses SendGrid for emails. However, although SendGrid has a free option, although it limits the user to 100 emails per day, it does not allow emails to be sent from Gmail accounts, even with the Gmail Enable Less Secure app switched on. For individuals, this could be a problem. However, I could find no obvious drawbacks to using MailKit, so MailKit is what we'll be using. Right, let's look at the code and get MailKit installed. To install MailKit, we select Tools, NuGet Package Manager, and Manage NuGet Packages for Solution. And with Browse selected, enter MailKit and press Return. And the one we want should be at the top. It's MailKit by Jeffrey Steadfast. So select that, select the project, and click Install. So that's done that. Now, before attempting to send emails from the purchase orders page, I want to test the basic email setup using a separate page with hard-coded credentials. This way we'll make sure that the MailKit is actually working as we expect it to. So I want to add a new page, so right-click on Pages, select Add, and select Raise a Component. And I'm going to call it MailKit Test Page. I'm going to get rid of the default code, and I've got some ready and waiting. And what this consists of is a page directive to MailKit test, 4 using statements, MailKit and MIMEKit. MIMEKit is part of MailKit. It's got a heading that says email test page, and then this section is a button with an on-click event that says send mail, and that will then come down here and trigger this. I'll skip over this for a second. So the actual code, we create a new email variable, a MIME message, and the send email requires a from address, a to address, a subject, and a body. So I've hard-coded the subject to be email subject goes here, and I've hard-coded the body to say this is the body of the email. Then we need to, this line here, connect smtp.gmail.com. I'm using Gmail for this test, but you could use whatever outgoing SMTP mail server you wanted. 587 is the port number, and that seems to be the case for most of the MailKit information I've seen, and secure socket options .start TLS always seems to be the correct one to use. Then these are the user credentials, the from name and user password. Then it will send the email and then disconnect. Now this section I jumped over quickly. These are the various SMTP connect addresses for the common personal individual email accounts. So Gmail is Gmail, Outlook and Hotmail is smtp.live.com, and Office 365 is office365.com. Now, to make life a little bit easier for us, or for me, I'm going to add this MailKit test to the menu. So I need to go to Shared, open the Shared folder and find Nav menu. And in here, I'll add a new menu item called MailKit. So it's pointing to the href as MailKit, and we've got a description of MailKit test. So this is the page with the data on it. So I'm going to send it from Blazor code at Gmail. I'm going to send it to Christopher Bell at Blazor code. I'm leaving the subject and the body as is. I'm going to enter the from as this. And I'm now going to enter my password, and you'll join me again once I've started the application. So here's the application running, and we've now got our new menu item called MailKit Test. And we've simply got the button with those three alternative individual connect SMTP statements. So let's give it a go and click send email. Now that's very boring because we don't know what's happened, but we can see I've got Outlook open here, and there is the email. So that's working with the all the code hard coded. So that's great. That's working well. So I'll stop the application and we'll move on. There is one thing I forgot to mention. If you're using Gmail, you have to have your Gmail account set to less secure apps is switched to on. To do that, let me just copy the code. The address you want is https://myaccount.google.com less secure apps. So I'll copy that and paste it into web browser. I happen to have I'm logged into the Google account, and you just need this allow less secure apps switch to on, so that toggles on and off. Right, so I can close that. We will eventually be adding the ability to send an email from the index page, and we could simply copy and paste most of this code into the index page. However, in most systems, there will be a need to send emails from a variety of pages, so it makes much more sense to create an email service that contains the bulk of the code that can be called from any number of different pages, passing the required parameters to the service. To create an email service, we need to take the following steps. We need to record some information such as the email username and password. However, we don't want to hard code this type of data into the actual C# code, both from a security perspective, such as uploading the code to GitHub, for example, and also if users and passwords are changed, we don't want to have to edit and recompile the application. Instead, we will save it in appsettings.json and read from that file when we need to. So the first thing that we need to do is to look at appsettings.json and enter the static bit of information that we want in there. So in appsettings.json, what we want is create a bit of space, these variables. So we want the SMTP host name, your name. So that's a friendly name. So it could be John Smith or Christopher Bell. The SMTP user address and the SMTP password. So we've put those in app settings. leave the port as 587, by the way. Next, we need to create the service itself. So if we go to the data folder, I'll close some of these, and we want to add a new class. And I'm going to call it email sender MailKit. And to save time, I'm going to delete that and copy the text in from here. So we've got various using statements at the top, such as the MailKit and MimKit, and extensions.configuration, because we'll be reading from app settings. And we've got the interface called iEmailService, and that's got a Boolean, which is send, which will be sending the email. It has three parameters: a string of who we're going to send it to, a string of what the subject is, and a string of the body. So the class email service has a private read-only for iConfiguration, called configuration, and we then set that to be the configuration down here. Now, I'm not completely sure exactly how this works, but that is basically the way that we get the information from appsettings.json. So the actual send itself has these three parameters: the to, the subject, and the body. It's a Boolean, and we declare various parameters or various variables here, and we read those from the configuration. So we're getting SMTP host, port, and friendly name, email, and password from the app settings. And then we're going to, similarly to the test page we made, we're going to add a from address, and it's going to be, we're going to have two things in here: a friendly name and the actual email address. To and to, we don't have a friendly name for the to, so we're going to just repeat those here: the subject and the body. And we're going to do something a little bit different here. We haven't seen this before in the code, but we're going to use a try catch. This is a method of error trapping. So we're going to try sending an email, and if it works, fine. If not, it'll come down here and catch. And this is what we're going to do. We'll be returning false to this Boolean up here instead of returning true. So the try attempts to send the email, same kind of thing as before. On the static, we're going to have the SMTP host, the port, the start TLS, the user address, and the password, and we're going to be sending it to the email address that we've had passed in as the to. So that's the actual service itself. But because we've used this, because we're using a service, we now need to have a look at startup.cs. And in the configuration here, we need to add another line for services. So that says services, add scoped iEmail service, email service. So now we can have a look at the index page. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to save everything and close these ones. Don't need the app settings.json or the nav menu. In fact, on the nav menu, let's get rid of that test page. We don't need that any longer. Right, let's have a look at the index page. And in summary, what we're going to need to do here is to inject the iEmail service. We're then going to need to add an item to the toolbar, which appears at the top of the page, the one that's got the the add and edit and delete orders. We're going to need to add an item there so that we can trigger the sending of an email. We're going to add an icon to the email in the toolbar, which proved rather difficult to find one that worked. And then we're going to have to add the toolbar event method to send the email. And lastly, instead of that rather bland, not knowing whether something has happened or not, I want to handle the success or failure of the send email by using a Syncfusion Toast control. So quite a few steps, but not too hard if we go through them one by one. So the first thing is that we need to inject the email service, which is just this line saying @inject email service. Next, we want to add the toolbar item. So if we scroll down here, these are the items we've got on the toolbar at the moment, and we want to add one for sending emails. And this is the one I've got. So it just says text is going to be email, tooltip is email selected order, but unlike this other one, I haven't got a prefix icon on it. And the reason for that is that these seem to be standard Syncfusion icons, but I couldn't find one for email. After quite a lot of searching around, I did find one on the Bootstrap website. And to use these, we need to enter some code at the top of the HTML section. At the very top, in this section called head. And that basically refers to a style sheet, which is an external style sheet, which has got the fonts on it. And with this in place, we can then go down to the toolbar again, and I've just copied that one from above saying email, and it's now got the prefix, and it happens to be called by envelope. We don't need that, so I'll get rid of that. So that's the complete toolbar item. It says email select order, and that's the icon. Now we're going to need, when we send the email, we're going to need the supplier's email address, which is on the purchase order. And I also want to include our purchase order number somehow into the body of the email. So to do that, I want to declare two variables, and I'll add them up here. I want a string for selected supplier email, and I want an integer for the selected PO order number. So that declares them. And the next thing is we need to, on the row handler, is where we get for example, the PO header ID. We need to add those two items to the row handler, which is down here. So what we're doing is saying the selected PO header supplier email is coming from the data on the line or the row, and it's PO header supplier email, and the order number is data.PO header order number. And just as a passing comment, you probably realize that I'm using pretty much the same name for the selected items as well as the variables in the table. I think that's probably good practice. It just makes life an awful lot easier if you're looking at things to have equivalent names. The last stage of preparation is to declare a variable that will be used to compose the body of the email that will be passed to the email service. I'm going to call this variable email body. No prizes for that, I guess. Where should we have it? We could probably put it in here. And with that complete, we can now have a look at you'll see these are the toolbar click handler. We've got one for add, edit, delete, preview, and now we want one for email. So I've got the code pre-done, pre-baked, and this is relatively complex, so I'll just go through it. First of all, we do the check to make sure that an order has been selected, and if one hasn't been selected, it issues a warning. And now we get into some complicated bits and pieces. This is the email body, and the email body I want to send as HTML. So I'm building up the email body by creating the HTML for paragraph, saying dear supplier, and then end of paragraph. Then I'm having a new line that says please click one of the following links, or copy and paste the links into your browser to view our order number, and then the selected order number. And we're then going to include a link to the actual order, preview order, which in our case, I'm using localhost 44377. You'll definitely have to change that for your own situation, and for live systems, that will have to be very different indeed. So that's without an anchor tag. What I found was that in some email clients, the link worked if I didn't have an anchor tag. In other cases, it only worked if I had an anchor tag, and in some cases I didn't find it worked at all. And since we can't be sure what email client, or whether the client is actually the supplier is actually using webmail, we've got to, I think, cover all eventualities. So I've included here the link without the anchor tag, and another line with the anchor tag. And this is where I really ran into trouble, because you can't put a quote in here because the building up the string would think that was the end of the string. So you have to use the ampersand QUOT semicolon, and that will be interpreted as a quote. Then we carry on and say email body, kind regards, then whoever you are. Then it says if we try sending it. So if the email service send, and we're passing into it the to, the subject, and the body, if that succeeds, we're going to do something, in this case we're going to await a toast object. So that's a toast object from Syncfusion, and I'll come on to that in a little while. So if that succeeds, it'll show a toast saying success. If not, it'll show a toast object saying sorry, you failed. So we need to now add the toast object. This is toast control. This is a little bit like the grid, but we'll put it at the bottom here. It has to be in the HTML section, but it doesn't really matter where. And we've got a class defining some CSS, which I'll come to in a minute. It's a Syncfusion Toast. We have to give it a reference, which is toast obj, and the timeout is the number of milliseconds that the toast will be displayed for. So 4000 is 4 seconds. The toast position, I've got X and Y. X's can either be right, center, or left, and the Y can be either top or bottom. So that's the definition of the toast object, but this section here defines is the CSS styling. And for this, it's quite complicated. I'm not going to go through it in detail. Just believe me, it works. And I think most of it is to do with the icon. So this whole section on the styling is all to do with the styling of the toast and its icon. Don't be alarmed. This item here is about 1 million characters long. Don't know why it needs to be so long, but it's there, but it works. I should say that all the code for this will be in the Blazor code website, and I'll put a link to this in the description of the video at the end. So that's the styling of it. And lastly, we need to declare the toast itself. So that toast object we need to declare, and the values that can get passed to it. So SF Syncfusion Toast, and we've used that, we've called it toast object. And for completeness, I'm including the 4 toast messages that are included from the Syncfusion example. So I've got warning, success, error, and information. Now I've marginally changed the content of success to say your message has been sent successfully, and on error I've changed the text to say a problem has been occurred while submitting your email. Information and warning aren't going to be used at all. So if we now go back, remember these lists we're going to access them via the index number, and the index starts at 0. So success is 1 and error is 2, and that's what we've got down here. So toast 1 and toast 2. So with all those changes in place, I think we can save everything and run it. So here's our purchase order page, and we've now got a new button that says email. I'm just going to have a look at one of these orders. This is order number 2. I'm going to edit it, and that's going to send it to Christopher Bell at Blazor Code as the email address. So that's fine. So I'm going to select that, and click email. And there we have our toast saying success. And if I look in Outlook, here's a new email. It's come from Christopher Bell, which is the friendly name, and blazorcode at Gmail. And it's being sent to Christopher Bell at Blazor Code. And we've got, please click one of the following links or copy and paste the link into your browser to view our order number 2. So with Outlook, both types of link work with or without the anchor. So there we can now have access to the order. And just to show the other one works, exactly the same. So it's been quite a lot of work to get this email working, but it does work. I mentioned at the very beginning, I think, that SendGrid was an alternative to MailKit. I'll probably put the code for SendGrid in the blog post as well, so that you've got a choice there if you want to. SendGrid, I think, might have some advantages for corporations rather than individuals, but MailKit does seem to work quite well without too many problems anyway. Thank you very much for watching. As I say, I'll put various links in the description, such as the Syncfusion Toast documentation, a link to the Syncfusion Blazor Syncly publication and the Bootstrap icons, and to a number of other resources that I used in making this. If you've got any comments, please leave them below. I'll try and get back to you to answer any comments if you've got questions. Otherwise, thank you very much, and thank you very much for watching.